the subject, and then the software will pick out the sharp pixels and combine them all together to create one image that's completely in focus. I've spent thousands of pounds on video gear for doing YouTube, and guess what the wife likes to use now? I still suffer from it, but I've learned to deal with it, and you want to give it a go. This is how you get started.
Hello and welcome to Camera Central Podcast. Today we have Stewart Wood, who is going to be one of the speakers at Wales and West this year. Stewart, what do you do? Also, really great name. Love the fact you spell it the same way as me. It's very rare.
Yeah, that's great. It's great to meet another Stewart who can actually say Stewart properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure and honour to be presenting at this year's Wales show. It's a really fun show. I do enjoy it.
Yeah, fair enough. So what is it that you do in particular then?
So I am a professional macro photographer. I do high-end focus stacking portraits of insects. So yeah, if you go out, you see any type of insects. If you see someone photographing around Cannock Chase, that's me in the bushes photographing insects.
I'm just in the bushes all the time photographing insects. just mind me. Oh yeah, massively.
The last few years, though, the popularity of macro photography has actually grown quite a bit, to the point where last year I had someone walk past me and he said he's a macro photographer.
Oh, mad.
Now, it's gone from people asking what are you doing to actually knowing what it is now. So it's good to see that macro is starting to get recognised as a good genre of photography that anybody can do now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when it comes to macro, in particular, and why it's getting popular at the moment, is I think we're actually having a larger fascination with what's actually happening in the real world, rather than, being obsessed with like technology or just, urban cityscapes. I think people really want to see what the world's about, really. And I think macro gives a unique perspective at that end. Anyway, sorry.
I think social media has helped a lot in the fact that a lot of people had the idea that macro was hard and expensive to get started in which it's actually not, which is partly what one of my talks is about, is how to get started in macro photography for a decent budget.
Yeah, oh, fair enough. So, like, one of your talks is about getting started, but where did you start in particular?
I started off, first of all, a bit of a backstory. I suffered from some mental health issues, anxiety and depression. And, when you buy a camera, you're photographing everything. Okay, when you first start, you're photographing everything. And for a 2-year period, I put the camera down. And after the 2 years, the only thing I missed was photographing the bugs and the insects. So I thought to myself, that's where I want to go down, is into the macro photography. And it all started with photographing a jumper spider on a wall outside. And, as photographers do, you take a picture and you think it's the best thing since life. Did it onto Facebook, didn't get no likes, nothing. I think I got 1 like, but that was from the missus, so it don't count.
I don't know.
Exactly, I mean, she wanted dinner cooking, so she obviously going to like my images. So it went from there, but instead of going, right, I'm no good at this, I'm just going to put the camera back away, I started going into research and finding the work of Thomas Shahan and all that. I mean, if you've seen his work or you know him, you know what I'm talking about with his jumping spider portraits. And then I decided I'm going to learn how to do it that way. And at the time, I thought it'd be top-end gear, top-end flash and all that. And it turned out it wasn't. It was all budget-friendly gear that you was using. It gave me hope that, this is down to just your skill level, which is why the image didn't work. Just the skill level, yeah. So that's where it all started. And then I told my friends about it and about, I might do YouTube. And they said, start the YouTube now, because they would be more interested in seeing the journey of learning it rather than me just teaching it. And it just went from there, basically, yeah.
Definitely. I think in this day and age, when it comes to content just in general, kind of stepping maybe a little bit away from the macro stuff in general, but I think the story is one of the biggest things people are interested in. Like, storytelling, I think, is a unique perspective as to, how to do it. Do you do much storytelling with the stuff that you actually put out on YouTube, or is it more kind of like tech-based?
I've got 3 different versions of videos. I'll do tech-based ones, That's like literally, this is a camera setting that could help you capture an image better or quicker.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I have entertainment type videos where I'm doing something new and I have absolutely no idea if it's going to work. Okay,
Yeah.
so for instance, I've started doing some wildlife stuff. So obviously, I documented that. I didn't know whether I get a picture or not. It's just, you know, come along for the ride. And then also you've got the story-based ones. Now the story-based ones, they take the longest to script and film. They also have the least amount of views as well for some reason. I'm not too sure why. But those are the ones like for this year I'm planning on getting a crab spider, which they don't seem to be around my local area. So it's like follow me along as I try to get a better crab spider image than what I've already got, and you know, make it a story-driven episode. But they are hard to do. The easiest ones to do are just a simple technical video straight off the top of the head. You know?
Yeah, well, it's one of those things, isn't it?
Genre for photography, you forget that sometimes people don't know the basics. So
Yeah.
when you go back and do like a technical video, oh, this can increase your chances of nailing the focus. They do like that type of video, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the audience can take away after watching the video and go, oh, that's going to improve my odds, or it encourages them to actually give it a go. Those are the good videos that I do like making.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, it's just all part of really learning, isn't it? So why macro for you? Why pick that particular very niche kind of subject?
I think it's mostly because when I started, there wasn't much material about how to learn macros. You couldn't go on to say KLB1 and like you could if you do portraiture and you go on there, you'd watch Joel Grimes or Lindsay Adler doing their thing. There wasn't much about, and it felt like a really good challenge. And the other thing, because of suffering from mental health, is I could do it from my tabletop if I didn't want to go outside.
Yeah.
And if I needed to go outside, I could just go in the garden, so I didn't have to talk to people. So that's how bad my mental health was. I wouldn't even go to the shops, you know.
Yeah.
Mental health is a weird thing when it affects you.
So
And I didn't want to bump into people. I didn't want to talk to people. So macro was a perfect thing because I could just do it in the house, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So in that retrospect, and you're talking about mental health, and it's something I feel like doesn't really get talked about, especially amongst men and stuff like that. Do you think photography helped you with your mental health? You know, get over it, or not necessarily? Because it's not even necessarily getting over it. It's, you know, learning how to live with it, I guess.
I still suffer from it, but I've learned to deal with it. And what it is I don't like getting into arguments with people because people have an opinion on everything.
yeah.
And I think from doing photography, it kind of jumps you in at the deep end because you've already got someone who's going to criticise you, so you kind of get used to it. So it did help with mental health. It helped me to get out because I'm like, yeah, if I want to get a dragonfly shot, I can't do that in my garden because I don't have a pool. So I've got to go out to get that.
Yeah.
And that helped me get out of that little bit of a hole that I was stuck in. And well, you know, like this year I'm going to be on stage, so you know it's a big turnaround for 6 years from not being able to go out your house to being on stage and teaching what you love to do from day to day. You know,
So do you do much teaching in general then?
I do as much as I can. I'll be honest with you because, like I said, when I first started, there wasn't much material about to help teach photography or macro photography, so I do like to get as much information out as possible before I drop dead someday. Get as much information out. I like my viewers to be on par with me, and as they're traveling, as they move along. So if I find something new out, it's instantly on the YouTube channel, so they know it as well.
Yeah.
It's good ways of doing it like that. Yeah.
One of the channels I used to watch quite a lot growing up, growing up, as I became a professional and getting into kind of like the creative industries, and it's going to link up to what you were saying, in particular about kind of like following that story from, you know, being okay to being fantastic at what you're doing. Do you find you needing to drop back a little bit? Because I watched this thing called Film Riot, and what I found in the comments is they lost a lot of people's interest because they got to the point in their story where they were doing full-blown professional stuff, opposed to where you start, basically.
I've recently realised that, and I am stepping back a little bit on my channel now. to do some basically one-shot basic your macro photography. In essence, the type of photography every photographer could do. So, obviously, you know, you and the viewers have probably seen my high-level damselfly, 100 image stacked shot. It's nice to look at, but the average photographer is not going to be able to do that, particularly with the equipment they've got. That's more high-end gear, which is one of the reasons why my introduction to macro photography that we're going to be talking about at the show will be basically, if you've never done macro and you want to give it a go, this is how you should get started with a very, very low budget. I'd say less than £100 just to get started.
Really?
And it'll show that I'm not going to show a 100 image stack in that presentation because they're not going to get that without a gear. So it's going to be all realistic shots that you can get with your gear at home right now. Okay. There's 3 different methods of starting, and I'll be explaining all 3 of those, and they're all for less than £100 to get started.
Wales and West is of course back again this year, where you're going to get the chance to check out some awesome technology. Also learn from some creative individuals about AI, astrophotography, social media and everything else in between. Getting the chance to not only play but also learn as well. And well, just have a whole heap of fun. This is of course at the ICC down Newport, and make sure you book your tickets now between the 19th and the 21st of June. I'll see you there.
So yeah, I feel like it's better to do more videos like that than the high-end stacks, but I'll still be doing the high-end.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's like, yes.
End up if you get addicted to it.
Yeah.
You're out in the middle of midnight, like at 12 to 2 a.m. in the morning, taking 5,000 shots of insects so you can get one image to post on Instagram the next day. Yeah, that is your end. That's where you end up if you do get addicted to it.
Oh, for sure.
Most photography is going to be one shot, basic one-to-one macro, and for a lot of photographers, they just love that type of macro anyway because they're not thinking too hard about it. They can just enjoy it,
Yeah, well, I mean that's it. I mean that's a big part of landscape macro photography, is just being able to enjoy the art form, which it is. You know what I mean? Because I think it's one area I feel like my missus in particular would love to get into, because she's so fascinated with the outside world, but she doesn't necessarily go out and do it. And I think macro photography for her would actually be a really interesting kind of like thing.
You can do it on one of these now as well.
Yeah, no, I was going to talk about that with the mobile phone. Yeah,
I did a presentation last night at a club where I mixed in some mobile images along with the Olympus and the Canon shots, and no one spotted it. What do you think about this image here? And I showed it. It was a 25 image stack of a jumping spot, and I said it was shot on an iPhone. And people were like, what? The technology's moved along so much with even the pro cameras as well. The technology's moved along so much that it's making it easier for people to try macro. All they need is a small budget, let's say £100, and the knowledge to know how to start, and that's what I'm going to be providing in my talks.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really interesting. So, of course, you did say you've got talks going on at Wales and West. One of them is going to be teaching you. What was the other one? Was there another one?
The first one is the introduction to macro. That's going to be the one I just spoke about, how to start it. If you're completely new to it and you don't know at all, or you've never tried it, that's the one you want to go to, because that will show you the gear that you need to convert your current gear so you can do macro. And then that's on the Thursday. And then on the Friday, I have an introduction to focus stacking. Now that's a talk. If you've already done macro, you want single shot, and you want to step up the game and start doing focus stacking, that would be the talk you'd want to go to.
Oh, fascinating. Focus stacking is something I've always wanted to learn, really. What is, talking on gear then, what is the gear that you use? I guess we can't necessarily spoil the talk for everyone where we're like, what's the beginner gear? But yeah.
So I'm currently using OM System gear. I'm not an OM System ambassador. Okay, everyone keeps asking me. No, I'll just use the gear that works for the job I want to do.
Yeah.
And then for some simple, more introduction type videos, I use a Canon EOS R. So I've got full frame and micro four thirds. So whichever
Yeah.
gear I use depends on the video I'm teaching. If I'm teaching someone, for instance, introduction to macro, I'll use the Canon because a lot of people are starting on full frame.
Yeah.
But then if I'm teaching high-end focus stacking, I'll move over to the home system gear to do that.
That's an interesting kind of like point you make there, where you're saying most of the people who are looking to get into macro photography are actually shooting with arguably the more professional cameras. Yeah,
It's something I fell into when you first start photography. You walk into a shop, you got no idea what a camera is. Okay, the only thing I knew was one was Canon, one was Nikon. That's all I knew.
yeah,
Okay, so obviously the salesman goes, "Here's one for you," and you go, you pass over your credit card, cha-ching, you walk out with a camera. I ain't got a clue what a crop sensor was. So when you
yeah,
start taking photos and you realise you're not very good at this, are you? Let's buy some magazines, start learning.
yeah,
Okay, and in all of them, it's constant. Get a full frame camera. Get a full frame
yeah,
camera. It's drilled into you as an amateur. Full frame is the best. So people upgrade to full frame before they've learned how to actually do photography, and that's what I did. I upgraded to full frame before I'd learned the proper macro techniques.
yeah,
And you know, I quickly learned full frame wasn't the best for macro, but it's a good all-round camera. If you're doing landscape
yeah,
portraits and macro, you go full frame. Yeah. If you're doing just macro, solely macro, you want to go micro four thirds because you've got
yeah,
added benefits from the smaller sensor.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people are on full frame because it is drummed into them. Yeah, buy the full
It
frame camera.
is. It
The
is
other
very
thing
much
I heard,
framed into.
sorry, the other thing I heard was you're not a professional if you're not using full frame. You've probably heard that, haven't you?
Yeah, and do you know what? I am going to probably really annoy you and say that I was actually one of those people for a really long time. However, it's completely changed ever since doing this channel and trying out everything else, like and especially Olympus as well, just in general, not necessarily for macro. It's not macro's not necessarily something I've done personally. I really want to get into it, but I just tried out the new OM3, really lovely camera, and I like the sort of like computational photography that they have in there. So like the actual focus stacking, because it do it in camera or is it like after? I can't remember.
Systems they can do. There's two more types. So if I quickly explain it, you've got focus bracketing. That's the sequence of taking the shots, and then you've got
Yeah.
focus stacking, which is when you combine them together. So the OM system cameras can do both. However, the focus stacking is only limited to 15 shots, which is great for a beginner because you let the camera do the job. You look on the back of the screen, you've got the shot, you go home and you can edit it. But
Yeah.
when you get to the higher level stuff like I'm doing, you typically taking more than 100 shots per image.
That's
So that's
crazy.
where you do the focus bracketing, and then you take all the shots home and you stack them in your software afterwards. And that's when you panic because you don't know if you got the shot. You never know if you got the shot until you actually stack it and realise, yes, I've got the shot. And that could be like 4 or 5 hours down the line. So
Yeah.
when you're out and about, you're taking as many shots as you can, which is why typically I will walk home with 5,000 shots per night.
Oh my days. What's so the concept of focus stacking is combining a bunch of images together all at different kind of like focus bracketed distance, right? What do those oh sorry.
Essentially, what it is when you're doing macro, your depth of field is really thin. So focus stacking overcomes that by taking a series of shots where the focus is moving through the subject, and then the software will pick out the sharp pixels and combine them all together to create one image that's completely in focus. That's essentially what it is. It's to overcome the limitations of optics and depth of field. Because as you move
Yeah.
closer to a subject, you lose the depth of field.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, like, if you were to actually see, like, one of those single images out of that stack, would you think people would be surprised that it's just, like, literally just a thin slice of the depth of field of, like, a hair?
Presentations now, everyone knows what a water droplet looks like and the size of a water droplet. In some of my high-end stuff, you'd probably get 10% of the water droplet in focus with one shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's really thin. And again, the more magnification you put on, the thinner it gets. So if you're at 1:1, You got a certain, let's say you got 1 millimeter of a depth of field. This isn't technically accurate, but just an example.
Yeah.
And then if you go to a 4 times magnification, you've probably got 10% of that 1%, if you know what I mean. It goes really thin. So essentially, the easiest way to explain it to the viewers is the closer you get, the more shots you have to take to get the whole thing in focus. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you've got a big dragonfly and you're, let's say,
Just about. Just about.
Camera Centre UK do both new, used, old cameras and everything else in between. So make sure you go over to cameracenteruk.com to check out the latest and greatest in camera technology, but also the old stuff as well. Anyway, let's continue.
half a metre away, you might get 10, 15 shots to get it all in focus. But then if you've got a little ant and you're right up close and at 4 times magnification, you might have to take 200, 300 shots to get everything in focus.
That's actually completely mad. So, of course, you've photographed a lot over your kind of like career as a macro photographer. Is there something that you would? What's the next dream? What's the next thing you want to take a photo of?
Crab spiders.
Everybody has a bane, okay? You know, portrait photographers, landscape, there's always something that you haven't taken. And I watch all of my macro friends from the UK, so it's not from exotic places. They're all taking pictures of these crab spiders. I can't even find one, let alone take a picture of one, yeah? So that is on my list to try and do this year. I'd also like, if I could travel, if my mental health will let me travel, is to go to a place where the jumper spiders that I photograph as pets at home are actually wild. So I can actually photograph them in the wild. That would be pretty nice. And I wouldn't mind photographing peacock jumping spiders in Australia as well. That would be something that would...
That does sound quite fun. Just trying to find crab spiders at the moment. It's not the giant crab, of course. Like this, I think that's the spider crab. It keeps coming up.
Essentially, if you're walking around anywhere and you've got loads of flowers, you'll find a spider that's sitting on a flower with its legs are in the hair like that. So it don't actually, it doesn't make a web. What it does is it finds a flower, and it sits on the flower and waits for a bee or something to come down the flower and then just grabs it. Colour to match the flower they're on. So if you see a yellow flower, you might see a yellow spider on it. Yeah. They also sometimes, when they run off, they go sideways like a crab.
That's actually mad.
Said I'm having a lot of trouble just finding them in my area, but I know there's a friend of mine who lives about 30 miles away, and they're all in his garden. And I'm like, I don't get it. Why are they all in your garden? I'm not getting on, man.
They need to be here.
It's going to happen this year, I'm telling you.
It's going to happen this year.
Saying that, I said that last year.
Oh yeah, no, it's always one of those things, isn't it? So is there another genre of photography you see yourself going into, in particular, or?
Yeah, wildlife. I've started doing some wildlife photography. I thought it'd be nice to... It's a natural add-on to macro. Because you're still going out, you just swap lenses, basically. So I've started that with the help of OM Systems, because they sent me their wildlife lens to have a play with.
They're slowly tempting you, aren't they? They're like, join us. Maybe not along those things. Yeah.
To me, I think a collaboration deal is the best for me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
If you was to become an ambassador, it would limit what I could do on YouTube. You know, I wouldn't be able to take the Canon out. I wouldn't be able to review the lower lenses because I have to use OM system gear. So a collaboration is the best thing to go for, because I get to play with the gear, but I also get to use other people's gear as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's important.
They're very supporting, I'll be honest with you, because they sent me the stuff and then never said nothing about when to send it back. So yeah, so you know, it's like I don't know when they're having it back, but I have made a decision, which they're not going to like. Okay, I have made the decision that when they have the OM1 Mark II and then 90mm back, I'm going back to my old setup of the EM1 Mark II. Because I feel like I don't need to be buying the top end gear, because I'm getting good results from that camera anyway.
Yeah, I mean that's it.
As well, because they can afford to buy that gear, whereas the top end gear they can't afford. And I learnt this doing wildlife, because I'm running around in photography hides with this massive white lens, and people looking and go, "Oh, that's nice, but I could never afford it."
Yeah, that's the thing, really, isn't it? It's like there's always that kind of like, oh, photography's really expensive and you're never going to be able to afford stuff. But when you think about it, and especially in this day and age, because digital photography has been going on for such a long time now, you can pick a 5D Mark III up for 500 quid. I mean, like even some of the older OM ones, you get what I mean? And photography as a whole has become a lot more, it's become much more affordable these days.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd love to go out and just buy the top end gear, and yeah, I'm using it now, but I still go back to the other gear to do certain videos, and it's not about me and my portfolio. If I want a crab spider image, right, I'm taking the OM1 Mark II and 90mm because that is the best gear that you can get for macro, in my opinion. Okay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I'm teaching it, I like to go back to my old setup because, again, it's more affordable for the followers to follow along, so that I don't give the impression you've got to spend £3,500–4,000 to get these shots, because you haven't. You can just start quite easy. Extension tubes, clip-on lenses. You can start with those and then work your way up to the top-end Olympus stuff, you know?
But the way I always used to do it, because I used to do weddings, and I used to have like a bunch of like, I say used to, still do, have a bunch of old film glass, but just even with mirrorless cameras especially, you can just swap it round and get macro. Not great macro, it's still filmic and, you know, whatever.
Yeah, that's what it's about. It's about starting, you know. Once you've started it and you go, I like this, that's when you put the money in to get the top end gear that you want.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's all about starting. You know, you don't need to go out and buy a macro lens to start macro. You just need to buy an extension tube or clip-on lens just to get started. It's like £50 to £80 for that, and then if you don't like it, you can sell it on eBay. Okay, it's a lot more. It makes more financial sense to do that to see if you like macro than to go out and buy a £2,000 lens or something like that, and then
exactly.
This is too hard to do. I better not put it in my bag and leave it for 6 months.
And this kind of like come back to the beginning where we were talking about it very much being the journey. I think people are interested in, and it's the journey I think that makes macro special. I mean, it's a world that we don't see day to day, isn't it? It's like completely out of the realm of what we see in our natural eyes, and yeah.
I could step outside my front garden and get half a dozen images of ants that you wouldn't even look at if you were shopping. You know,
no, it's mad, and you know there's such a lot to do it. So of course, Wales and West is coming up. Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Just a little bit. Is this the first talk you've done, or have you done talks before?
I've done talks at camera clubs, but not actual shows. I was scheduled to do one at the photography show a couple of years ago. It landed on the same day that the Queen was getting buried, so it got cancelled. So unfortunately, I didn't get to do it then. I
was actually at that TPS. It was a bit mad because I was working it and I had to go all the way back to Cardiff and then like for just a day and then go back to TPS. It's absolutely mad. Yeah, just a little bit mental, but I don't know how much we can really talk about TPS. Wales and West is coming up. I mean, you're going to have one extra Stewart. Something that was actually quite funny about one of the original ones that I actually filmed is that there's actually a lot of people called Stewart there. Just a few brand reps called Stewart, you know, all of this. And in the first video I was talking about, you know, starting the army of Stewart, but they all told me off for not spelling it correctly. So now, me and you, together, we've got this. No. But no, super excited to have you at Wales and West, of course. It's a really awesome show, and I can't wait to actually hopefully be able to catch your speech. I might be super crazy busy on the day, but really excited for anybody that wants to come and see you talk about what you love to talk about. It's so cool.
Pop along, learn how to do macro and learn how to do focus stacking.
Fair enough. So if someone was going to start doing photography, video, or something in the creative fields, what advice would you give them?
Don't get obsessed with gear. I've spent thousands of pounds on video gear for doing YouTube, and guess what the wife likes to use now? Is a DJI Pocket 3. Yeah. And I tell you what, no one has even noticed we've switched to a DJI Pocket 3.
Yeah.
So don't get obsessed with gear. Just start with whatever you got. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you get a successful channel, you can go out and buy a Sony FX3 and all that stuff. And it's brilliant to use,
Yeah.
but you don't need it to start doing
No.
any creative
No,
work.
not
Just
at all.
use your phone. You got a phone in your pocket, just use that.
Yeah, you know, I to be fair, even today, I still use my phone for little bits and pieces here and there. It's a great tool, and you know, it comes out to that age-old saying, I guess, you know, the best camera you have is the one you have on you, right? But yeah, no, I agree. But you know, if you do get obsessed with gear, make sure you go to cameracenteruk.com. Get yourself a good deal. Yeah, I know. But you know, everyone kind of like starts somewhere. This has been a pretty awesome conversation. We are coming to the end of it because Zoom's about to kick me out because they like to kick me out of things. But it's been a real pleasure getting to know you, Stuart. I'm really excited to perhaps do some more with you in the future. Yeah, no, definitely. I'm a chatterbox, so I could probably talk for hours. In fact, I feel like, yeah, I know, because I feel like Tyler, the guy that handles a lot of our social media posts, he's also co-presenter on the channel here and there. He complains at me for like really like pushing the length of videos of podcasts in particular, just because I like talking. It's just fun, isn't it?
It is fun.
Aye, for sure. But anyway, I'm going to get over onto Stuart's channel and watch a bunch of macro videos and maybe start something new because I've actually got a macro lens now. So that's exciting. There you go, sorted. Anyway, pleasure having you on. See you at Wales and West. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, follow, subscribe if you want to see more. And Stuart, do you want to say anything in that end? Push anything?
If you want to learn anything to do macro, you want to just have any help, then head over to my website. Everything's on there. All my social links and contact details are there.
Okay, awesome. And it'll also be in down below. So we'll see you next time.